Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. This is John Self. Welcome to Office Hours. This has been an interesting week in the big city of Tyler. We started off on Monday afternoon with severe weather, and about Monday night, about 7:45, we lost power. Some very high winds. We had hurricane plus force winds come through. A lot of trees down, damage all over the city. We were without power for about 24 hours, came back up, and then this morning it went down again. So we're delighted to be in the studio. Things are cooled off, and you know how Texas can be. If you live in Louisiana, lower Mississippi, lower Alabama, and places in Florida, you know, without air conditioning and a muggy humidity, it can be just downright miserable. So we've been able to get work done thanks to Starbucks and their very inexpensive coffee. And but anyway, we're back now. The power zone, and you know now that it's passed, it doesn't seem so bad. So today we're going to talk about two things. One is evading the bots, and secondly, the value of encouragement in your job search. Now, a little programming note. Tuesday's Lunch and Learn obviously had to be postponed because we were without power. And so it'll be broadcast or streamed at 11:30 a.m. Friday, 11:30 a.m. Central Time on Friday. It's a really great program, and so we hope you'll join us. The replay will be available on our YouTube channel, Guiding Your Career, John G. Self. So that's the two things. Now today, we're going to provide you some updated information about the world of AI and what's evolving, and there's some interesting stuff happening there. So, you know, the key thing, everybody's always asked me, how do you outsmart the bots? Well, everybody says, oh, Chat GPT will help you because it'll get you a resume that'll get through. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. Everything that was out initially in Chat GPT was really an early stage, kind of a trial test kind of program. It's getting much more sophisticated now that they have Chat GPT-4 out. But basically, everybody's trying to figure out how to outsmart the bots. And the reason for that is there's enormous dysfunction in the search industry. And if you don't think that's true, then you're either a recruiter or you're not in the job market. Now we're seeing something that's happening with job seekers, and that they're now getting access to more sophisticated AI. So you have kind of a tech counteroffensive. We'll talk about that today. And finally, the very important subject of being encouraged when you're looking for a job. That can be one of the most demoralizing, heartbreaking, just an ego crusher. And so we want to talk about that and how to reach out to people to get that help. So let's talk about job dysfunction. That's one of my favorite subjects. You know, the stress frustration is really growing in the marketplace. And it really all began in the mid-1990s and the late 1990s when big corporations were being overwhelmed with a lot of resumes. They had to hire big staffs to go through them. And there was bias and there was discrimination. It was prolonged. It was expensive. And so they were introduced to the idea of computerizing or automating the applicant tracking, so that when you could create a portal so people could apply for jobs, and then when they applied for jobs, it would be fed into an applicant tracking system computer, and which would then evaluate it based on the jobs algorithm and send it to the correct recruiter. So that's how it all got started. The driving force was to speed up the process, to get rid of the bias, to get rid of the discrimination, and to reduce cost. So that's really important. And I think for years, initially, most applicants were unaware of what was going on. They were not unaware that they were getting rejected or ignored, more likely. And that was really a really a pretty brutal thing, and it created a lot of frustration. And for the companies that did not really think they needed to tell anybody what they were doing, this had some unintended consequences because people became very, very angry. And if you don't have a good recruiting process, the chances of you keeping your employees engaged post employment are really challenging. So they made a lot of mistakes. Anytime you start with new technology that nobody completely understands, even the designers, you're going to have problems. But unfortunately, corporations and HR departments kept this process rather opaque. And it did a lot of damage. I mean, it really frustrated a lot of people, and a lot of people, they have a very negative view about talent acquisition now. But let's be honest, there is no going back on this process. Now, companies have their own set of problems with recruiting. They don't interview correctly. They don't get prepared. They're not organized. They have bad screening on the front end with the computers. And all of this is costing businesses about $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion a year. And this is American businesses alone. Now, what is that? And what's really astounding, this is a problem they can fix. I mean, the know-how, the process design is available. You just have to want to fix it. And I'm not sure why this doesn't happen, but it's costing them a lot of business. And, that's not a subject that CEOs want to talk about, quite frankly. One of the other things that, of course, when you start with something new, everybody is attracted to the bright, shiny solutions. Employers, when they see candidates from Harvard or Yale or MIT or Caltech or all the great top name schools in the country, and they have MBAs from prestigious schools, those people may be absolute slugs, but they're drawn to them. Why? Because all of those credentials, all of those schools they're the bright, shiny new object. And so, but what's happening in the application, in the job application process now, is that employees that are looking for work, or former employees that are looking for work, are now having access to their own set of AI tools. And so they are able to, using subscriber or membership programs to get access to these tools, they're able to get, to flood the market with their own resumes, customized for the job summary, with the cover letter. Now, some companies have tried some tried and true strategies from the bygone days to offset this. I mean, basically, they're now talking about referred candidates. If you refer a candidate that gets hired, you get a cash referral. And the interesting thing is the referred candidates are now being evaluated above the normal people in the applicant tracking system. So although the applicant tracking system is the piece of technology everybody loves to hate, it is now the AI piece is what employees are now using to get their applications through the system. It's just becoming a traffic jam. It's a mess. And there's so many candidates floating into the system now. And if you're familiar with the management and executive levels of jobs, there is something called a white-collar recession. There are fewer jobs than there are people looking for jobs. And so now we have this incredible traffic jam. So companies are now trying to sort that out. And so if you refer a candidate and it's flagged in the system, that candidate is going to be considered ahead of anybody else. And the statistics are pretty amazing. Now, as applicants are desperate for visibility. I mean, they submit their resume, they don't hear anything, it gets kicked out because it doesn't rate high enough in the ATS algorithm. They don't know that they don't even know that the company even got the resume, and then when they're kicked out, they don't know, and so they're absolutely frustrated. And so, the stress and the tension is just building again. And so people desperate for visibility. How do I get past this? I mean, how do I get past the initial screening? And here's the statistics. If you are referred to a job, there was a job board that did a study, and they found that 50% of those candidates got to the next level, which means they got through the resume screening, which is where most candidates go to die. Their applications die in the resume screening. People who were not referred only got through about 12% of the time. So you can already see this new preferred system is working, which frustrates the job applicants more. And they're saying, how do I get noticed? What's the cheat code to get through the initial screening? I love that, the cheat code. How do I get through that screening? Well, I'm here to tell you there's some good news and some bad news. There is a solution, but it's not the bright, shiny, easy, quick fix that everybody wants. They see that little bauble out there glistening in the sun, and they say, oh, that's the answer. That's going to get me through. I'm not going to have to work as much. I can almost go on automatic with my job search. Not so fast, because there is no cheat code. There is no cheat code. I mean, people who think this and people who are talking about it have no idea what they're talking about. To get through the applicant screening system with all of this flood of new candidates coming in, because it's all being, the job applicants now are automating the way the companies had been automating. So we have clashing automations. You now have to really go back and focus on the fundamentals. And when you say focus on the fundamentals, I know there could probably be some things I could say that were probably more unsexy than that, but I'm not sure what it would be. I think looking for a job is stressful enough without the feeling that you've got some computer, some quote bots, which we sometimes in our minds sort of attach a human-like quality to, making critical career decisions for us. And that drives us crazy. And so that's another fuel to the fire of, we want to know how can we get through this? We're tired of this absolute, challenge and not knowing why we're not being considered. Well, there is a more effective way. It's not an easier way, but it is a better way. And it's going from the can't to the can. In other words, you can't get through, but you can get through if you follow some fundamental things in job search. And they've been around for a long time, and people have gotten away from them because they started being very absorbed with, how do I deal with the technology? How do I master getting through the algorithms? And the truth is, there is a way. Now, there's three key elements that you have to address in getting to this point. First of all, if you're going to go focus on the fundamentals, you have to have a value brand statement that focuses your message. If you don't have that, you're already in trouble. A VBS is also called a value proposition. My former colleague, Nancy Swain of Dallas, came up with this great concept years ago. She perfected it, and we taught this together. She taught it in some of my ACHE courses for the American College of Healthcare Executives, a global professional association that we taught every year at Congress. And she was a terrific teacher and really explained this. And people that listened to her and got it, you could always tell when you would interview them, because they were more focused than the people that didn't really understand the concept. So when you get asked that first question, John, why do you want to work for us? Really what they're asking is, tell us who you are and what value you're going to bring to our organization. What they're asking for is your value brand statement. That's what that is. And once you have it, you understand it, you're sold on it, you've learned it, not memorized it, but learned it, you are a more focused candidate and a more secure candidate, more confident candidate in a job interview. The next thing you need to do is you have to have a customizable resume that sells your value using quantifiable achievements. Now, in the past, people could get by submitting a resume that gave a really good explanation of all their experience, where they've worked and what they did. That's not enough anymore. You have to have where you work, what kind of company was it, what was your scope of responsibility, what you did, and what did you accomplish? What was the proof that you are going to bring value to our organization? So quantifiable achievements. And you know what I hear people say all the time in the interviews when I was a recruiter? I don't remember, which is the dumbest thing you can say in a job interview. So if you're not keeping a journal with your accomplishments, you're way too late, but it's better late than never. So start keeping a career journal month to month, week to week. When you accomplish something, sometimes you may do something and it's really great. You write it down. You may say, that's not really great. And later you go back and look at it and go, holy cats, this is a wonderful accomplishment that I can use to sell this skill or that strength. And so that's what it's all about. You have to tie your accomplishments, your quantifiable achievements to your strengths and skills. That's what it's all about in the resume. And then what you need is a career plan. And everybody now goes, gag me with a spoon. John, you're always talking about that stupid career plan. Most people don't have career plans. You're correct. But guess what? The research shows that people with a written career plan are more successful than those that aren't. Now, what does that tell you? Really? What is that screaming at you that says why you should have a career plan? Because there's a lot of people not, and if you started, that puts you in a different category than everybody else. And when there are more people looking for jobs than there are jobs, you need every bit of differentiation you can achieve. So please start keeping a career plan. And you want to set a long-term goal. And then you also want to put in focus on what are the next steps to achieve that longer-term goal. Will it change? Probably yes. I mean, life changes. But you start with a goal, a long-term goal, and then you plug in the objectives. What is it going to take to get to that goal? As your career evolves, as you change priorities, as you change your perceptions of what you want to achieve in your life, then you adjust your plan, just like a company adjusts its business plan from year to year or every 18 months or so. So, and again, it is not about, it is really about getting focused. It is none of this is the bright, shiny, glitzy stuff that's going to make it easy for you to find a job. It's all foundational. It's all about the fundamentals. And this is important because once you get your networking strategy aligned with your career goal and objectives, then you can put together a next step focus and a networking program that will help you get there. Why? Because really the cheat code, you know what it is? Who do you know? Who do you know? That's the cheat code. And most people, they simply don't want to go there. Now, you cannot trick the bots, but you can bypass them. And that's what the who you know is all about. The who you know, your networking connections are critical to outmaneuvering not only your competitors in the ATS screening line, but it will help you avoid falling victim to a minor mistake that okay, Peter. Thank you, Peter, for checking in today. He said, raise your volume. So I'll raise my volume. Let's see this. I hope that's better now, Peter. I'm changing the mic volume. I think our settings got changed when we lost power twice in the process. So I'm going to check over here one other place before we continue and see if there's another setting here. So if you'll pardon me for a second. And now I'm going to go to System Settings, and I will be back with you in just a second. Whoa. Way did it ever change. That should blast you out of the park, Peter. Thank you very much. My friend Peter Piccinini in New Jersey, who is a great friend, a great financial advisor, and a great coach for me as well. Thank you very much, Peter. I hope that's much better now. I think the replay will probably be good. If it's not, I'll re-record it for you. But anyway, it's the who you know. Your networking connections. They are critical to help you outmaneuver the technology and outmaneuver the competitors. Because if you're looking for a management or executive job, whether you're looking, in your state, in a region, nationally, or if even internationally, it's a zero-sum game. You're competing with somebody else. If you lose, that's because somebody else beat you out and got the job. So you have to do all these things, the fundamentals, to help you get to the next level. One person that I was chatting with was a coach in Chicago, and he said, I had a client, and he told me I found a job and I didn't have a network, sort of a sneer. Well, the coach, I said, really, how did that happen? He said, well, let me tell you the rest of the story. His search took him 14 months. And like so many, he became fearful that he was going to become homeless because he had basically spent his entire retirement plan in taking some time off, and then his 14-month job search. He never thought it would take that long. He always thought it was a 4 to 6 month process, and that's what he sort of based his spending on, and it caught him short. He applied to more than 120 positions online. In the end, after 120 positions, he only had 3 offers. Only one was equal or approximately equal in compensation, and 2 others were significantly below. And so that is the importance of having a network. And the reason for that, having that who you know piece, helps you identify jobs that aren't listed and helps you bypass the bots. And that cuts your time down, and that keeps you qualified for the better paying jobs. And so I think that is, really, really important. So let's summarize this presentation since we had a volume issue. First of all, now subscriber services are providing job seekers with access to GPT-4 and other tools so that they can kick out resumes and cover letters. Some HR people said the cover letters all sound strangely similar, which is not surprising. If you've ever seen LinkedIn messaging with the AI technology, a lot of the messages sound the same. And that takes away from the authenticity. But now they're able to apply for a lot more jobs. And so even though time again, we have proven that more is not necessarily better, people are just applying for more jobs than ever before, and they're clogging the pipeline. And so in order to deal with that clog in the pipeline, companies now are kind of going back to some old school techniques and paying for referrals, trying to incentivize the referral plan. So an employee refers somebody they know and would think would be a good employee. If they get hired, the employee gets a nice cash bonus. Now, what that does, if you're just applying online and you're not referred, that means you're even being pushed further down in the list. And so that has driven a lot of people to start yelling at these job boards, what's the cheat code? How do we beat this? What can you tell us to help us get by? And what it is, we want to do this, but we really don't have to put in the hard work. And the cheat code is, it's who you know. And it's always been that. This hasn't changed. So we hope that you'll pay attention to that. In our Lunch and Learn on Friday, there will be more detail on that, and I hope you'll join us then. But I think it'll be something that you'll enjoy seeing.
All you need is one person in your life who says, you got this, I believe in you, and you will find courage and energy to do things that you would not have had before. But more importantly, that person needs to also say, and if everything goes wrong, I will be there for you, and I will be there with you, and I will be in the mud with you, and has the ability to say, something's wrong, I'm worried about you. And I think burnout happens when you're attempting to do all of the things you see other people do and not realize that they have deep, meaningful relationships that you can't see. And you think, falsely, that you have to do it alone. And that's when burnout happens, because you don't, as an individual, have the energy. But in community and in relationship and in friendship, it's remarkable, including knowing when to just take a little break to recharge.
A lot of people think that needing encouragement is really an emotional or some sort of psychological deficiency. It's a weakness. And nothing could be further from the truth. And so today we want to now go back and focus on the value of encouragement in your job search. As a coach, you see people at their very best and at lower than hammered whale poop sometimes, because it is a very, very demoralizing process, particularly if you're trying to find a job without a career network to give you leads and to refer you to potential employers. The myth, the encouragement makes no difference in performance. Absolutely false. 83.6% of employees feel that recognition attracts their, really affects their motivation to be more successful in their jobs and to advance in their careers. And so it's very, very helpful to have someone who stands with you, who will give you encouragement, not to fuss at you about what you're doing wrong or what they perceive you're doing wrong in your job search, but someone who knows your strengths, who knows what you stand for, and who understands what you want to achieve and will stand there with you time and time again. As Simon Sinek says, even if you end up in the mud. And believe me, in a job search, you can end up in the mud in a hot hurry. Now, two other areas of the survey done by Nectar, 77.9% said yes to the fact that would you be more productive if you were recognized more frequently? Okay, if you received more encouragement, more praise. And almost 78% of the people said absolutely, we feel like we would do better. And then 81.9% said the more I'm recognized for my contributions, the more engaged I will feel at work. Now, again, while so many people say that you don't need to be encouraged to do the work they're supposed to do, a lot of people say, no, I don't need that. I'm a super giant. I'm a super killer. I can do this without all that fluffy, soft, warm, touchy-feely stuff. But that's not really true. And a lot of people kid themselves. Most perform better when they're singled out for praise. I know that's one of my deals. I always had bosses that figured me out really quickly. That if you praise John for the deal he closed or how hard he's working or something else, he just worked harder. He just did more deals. He just made us more money. And I think that's okay if you know that about yourself. What's really bad is if nobody cares enough. If nobody cares enough to help you feed you that rocket fuel that you need, or the leaders don't feel it's their job. And I believe that leaders who cannot find it in themselves to praise team members for their excellent performance are really just high-dollar managers with a nice title and a good compensation, but they don't know jack diddly squat about leadership. Leaders understand that they have to encourage their people, they have to cheer their team on, and that's part of their job. You want to hire the best people you can, and then you want to take care of them. And you take care of them by giving them praise, because that's a lot of the emotional nourishment they need to be more successful. Well, in a job search, that is absolutely the case. You are going to get so much rejection if you don't have a professional network that is aligned with your career goals. Then you are going to encounter a lot of rejection. And if you don't have somebody who's helping you boost you up, reaffirming who you are and what you're really good at, then it's going to be a tough time. It's going to be an emotionally debilitating experience. Don't let that happen to you. Find somebody who can give you support. Now, I think that's the real challenge, is to find this sort of crucial energy when you don't have a job, when you don't have that boss who's trying to help you do better in your career, when you've moved on either through a layoff or, you agreed to disagree. When you're looking for that next better job, this is when you are the most vulnerable. This is when you need the most help. And I went from somebody who was very much an employee and an executive who worked for some great bosses to working for myself. And that was a totally different construct. And it was very, very difficult. And I still have tough days where I really struggle to lift my spirits up. Because, when you're working for yourself, by yourself, it's really can be kind of lonely. I think needing encouragement is not a personal weakness. Please don't let yourself go down that silly rabbit hole, because many job candidates suffer deeply because they do not know they need the support. But they may know they need it, but they don't know how to ask for it, because they really operate under the belief that this must be a career weakness. This must be one of my failings in life, that I have to have support to do the job I'm supposed to do. No, it means you're a human being. It means you're like it means you're like the majority of other people in this life, in this journey that you're taking. I think that, sources for rocket fuel, okay, it can be your spouse. It can be your partner. It can be a family member. But they do not always appreciate that role, or they can tire very quickly in an intense period of such as a job search. A job search used to take 4 to 6 months if you were a manager or an executive. It's now 8 to 14 months, and I wouldn't be surprised if it extends out even more. Now, it's also helpful if you have a former colleague, somebody who understands you, who's worked with you, who saw you be successful and knew why you were successful and admired you for that success. They can fulfill that role in the past. Or an executive coach or a friend. But one of the things you have to understand is that sometimes the family and the friends can kind of lose interest in this because it is a full-time requirement. It's a full-time job. It's, a leader doesn't praise people just when he feels like it. He has to keep praising people to help them continue to achieve their goals, to help them continue to be successful, to feel personally fulfilled. It's not something that he can do only when he feels like it. People need all the time. And so this is where it's very, very difficult. One of the things that we pride ourselves in doing is trying to help people, understand who they are and then give them the support, emotional support, the friendship support, and the spiritual rah support. Somebody says, "Oh, you're just being a cheerleader." Okay, guilty as charged. But if I have to jump up and down with pom-poms to help you achieve what you need to achieve, that's a small price to pay as far as I'm concerned. So please, please get help. Find someone who will encourage you. Now, sometimes that encouragement also means that they're not going to give you, you're not going to be able to slide off the dime in terms of you're not doing what you need to do. And part of being someone who encourages you is that they need to say, okay, BS, you're not doing what you need to do. You're not doing what you're capable of doing. You're just kind of floating along and not accomplishing what you want to do. You're not taking your next steps. You're just going through the motions and hoping something will happen. That's not who you are. That's not why you're successful. Get back on the stick, get back on the horse and make this happen. And that's when an executive coach can be very, very beneficial in your job search. I think, again, family and friends grow weary of this role. And I've had candidates tell me this in the past. He said, one guy was just very emotionally upset when I talked to him one Friday afternoon, and we got in, we're talking, and I said, what's going on? And he said, I just had a bad experience. My spouse is just tired of me not being able to find a job. And from her, she reacted with anxiety because she's worried about the money, and she reacted because she's tired, she's stressed. And family can begin to interject their own anxiety regarding financial security or any number of other things. And that's not necessarily a good thing for the job candidate. You need your coach or your friend or the person that's giving you that rocket fuel, that's willing to encourage you, needs to tell you if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But when you do it and you're working hard, even when you end up in the mud, they're there with you to encourage you, to help you get out of the mud, to dust you off, and to encourage you to go back down the road and attack it again. And I think that's really important. And that's something people don't think about when they're entering a job search, is how are they going to find that enthusiasm, those words of encouragement that that they would have gotten from a boss. Because in a job search, you're basically in a full-time job, finding yourself a job, and the only boss you have is you. So think about that as you think about your job search and your career advancement, is who can you reach out to give you the encouragement you need. You may not be somebody who needs much encouragement. Okay, that's great. You are in the definitive minority in this country. Most people do need it. I think the other thing, you want to have somebody who can give you authentic, heartfelt encouragement. And again, former bosses and career coaches are typically better at sources of this encouragement because they know you and they know how to administer the dose. And I think that's something that you really want to consider. Now, people say, well, how can you help? Well, we have basically two packages. We have and I'm going into my sales pitch here, but not for long. We have a premium all-inclusive package, and it's a $1,200 retainer, and then there's a monthly payment. It's a fixed fee. So even though you finish your consulting engagement, you've paid your fees, we stay with you, encouraging you, guiding you, challenging you until you place. Or if you don't feel you need that level of intensive support, you can become a member of our career community. For $49 a month, you get access to all of our online on-demand video courses covering all facets of career management and job search. But you also have access to 3 live weekly group coaching streams with access to replays. You also get discounted fees, 50% for our on-demand one-on-one live coaching sessions. And you also get 3 30-minute free check-in phone calls per month. And this costs you $49 a month. There's no contract. If you, after 3 or 4 months, you don't feel like you're getting the value, then stop. Because if we haven't met your needs, and if you haven't given us a chance to meet your needs, then we don't need to take your money. So those are 2 ways that we're trying to help people, and to try to look to us as someone they can trust, and someone they can trust will give them that encouragement and understands the dynamic of why that's important, and we do. So I hope you'll join us tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. for Career Live, at 11:30 a.m. Central Time on Friday for Lunch and Learn. These are all streaming on YouTube at Guiding Your Career John G. Self on YouTube, at johnGself.com on Facebook, and on our LinkedIn page. So I hope you'll join us on Thursday and Friday for these live streams. Now, another note, as we move forward in our membership program, these live streams will begin to taper off in terms of public access. If you're a member of your career community or one of our active coaching clients, you have access to the live streams, but they will, toward the end of the summer, they will not be accessible to just the general public. So I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope you have a great rest of the week. We are hoping that we have no storms and no more power outages. It's really interesting to be in a house and have a 75-mile-an-hour wind taking your lawn furniture into the next county. So we think we've gotten past that. Tomorrow, in fact, we're supposed to be in the danger zone for heat index. So we go from rain and cooler weather to tomorrow muggy and extremely hot weather. But after the morning time, I have plenty of time to sit under my umbrella and do my writing and sip an adult beverage, perhaps even. So thank you very much for joining us. We will see you tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. on Career Live. Thanks, everybody.